Hey everyone, Zelma here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be building a custom map of medieval terrain in Worldpainter. It's been a while since I've done a Worldpainter video, but let's get right into the time lapse. So I like to start my maps by creating a large area of flat terrain just so I can get the shape of whatever build I'm making first. So you're seeing this done with one of the flat brushes over there on the tool selection. And then we're going to go ahead and add some ruggedness to this terrain. We don't want it to be all super flat because then it won't look natural in the game. So now I'm starting to create this cliff by the edge of the thing. And this took a little bit of trial and error because I'm a little bit rusty with the software. But for part of this process, we're going to be using the at or above or at or below checkboxes on the right hand side. So this allows us to create these cliffs that would otherwise become slopes if we were to not use these boxes. And I'm creating a flattened area of terrain around this map. This took a few tries as well, but I figured I'd show you guys the entire process. So right now this map still doesn't have that much to offer, but as soon as we add some mountains in, it will really come to life. So we're going to start our round 2 of figuring out how to create this flattened terrain. So now I think we finally gotten it right. I'm creating this flattened elevated terrain all above, and we're going to leave some areas where it dips down a bit. Now we can go ahead and muddy up this terrain again. So I'm using some custom brushes here, and if you want to download them for yourself, I will include a link to the description. This is how we create our mountains. We're going to be using these custom brushes. They're so easy to use. As you can see, it's taking all of 30 seconds in this time lapse. And we have a mountain range just like that. It took much longer to get those cliffs than it did to make these mountains. So now we're going to muddy up this terrain even more a little bit in the back. We're going to raise the elevation a little bit in certain parts, so it's not super flat, and then suddenly there's a mountain. So we're especially going to do that toward the middle over here, as you can see. It's starting to look like an actual map, which is good. And now we're going to add some even more details. These are going to be some really tiny river features. I'm not sure what the actual geographical term for this is, but I'm just going to call it a river. I'm pretty sure there's another name for this type of body of water where it has like a small entryway, but we'll see. Correct me if you guys know what it is. And we're even creating some tiny cliffs over here. And this is a really small feature, you guys will see. But definitely it's always worth adding some tiny features around your map. We're going to do another similar one on this side as well. As you can see, we're using the at or above 58 level on the right hand side because we don't want this river to get too deep, and then we can go ahead and uncheck that and then create some more texture so the river isn't super flat after the fact. So you see we just did some of that right now. I'll go ahead and do it over here as well to make this area a little bit deeper. And now we're going to go ahead and start some spray painting, I believe. So the first thing you want to do is go over to these cliffs over here by the front. So I was imagining them being kind of rocky cliffs. And we're going to use a mix of stone and cobblestone to create this rocky thing. This is a default brush that comes along with Worldpainter. You can just select rock and it'll create an even mix of these two blocks. And then we're going to go ahead and delete some of that on the little tiny area below the cliffs. So it's mostly grass and a little bit of stone. And then around here, we're going to spray paint a custom layer of dirt and podzol. You'll see me making that right now. So we're going to be using coarse dirt and podzol. And then we're also going to add, I think, a layer of grass just so it's not super dense when we spray paint it down. Although that was honestly a bit unnecessary, but it looks nice in the end, and that's really all that matters. And then we're going to go ahead and start spray painting on these mountains. So I always like to do a pretty wide layer of stone on all of these peaks. You can see I'm pretty generous with how I spread it out. It's not only on the concentrated parts of the peaks. And then after we get a nice thick layer of stone, we're going to go ahead and work on our deep snow layer. So I like to use a combination of deep snow and frost. That's just personal preference right there. But I'll especially layer the deep snow on areas where I know are more elevated than the others, and I can check the height level on the bottom of the map. So we're adding deep snow, and then we're going to be a lot more generous with how we spread our frost. And I'm checking the snow placement by going into this third person view. Yeah, we're just spreading it all around all these little cliff tops until we like the way it looks in this 3D view. Now we can go ahead and spray paint our custom layers. So this is going to be using a tree pack made by another Minecrafter. I will include the link in the description. So what I did was I went through this entire map and I picked the trees that I liked and I made my own little brushes through them. There's a bunch of tutorials that shows you how to make this, so feel free to check those out. One thing I did wish I did previously was to maybe make the trees a little less dense in the final map, but at the same time, it's super cool to be walking through a forest and you can barely see the sky and you see these huge trunks of trees around you and you're walking through and it feels very dark. So there's definitely a trade-off to be had depending on how dense you want to make these trees. But if you were making this map for yourself, I would err on the side of caution and choose to make it a little less dense. And you can change the density by making the intensity much lower. So now we're showing you guys the actual map. I think it looks pretty nice in the end. We have all this frost and snow and gorgeous, gorgeous trees. Link to the description of those for the person who made those. So we have all these lovely rocky textures surrounded by all these trees. They look fantastic. We have a mix of these big oak trees and those tall spruce trees. And some lovely mountains that were very easy to create using some custom brushes. I'm pretty happy with how this map turned out, although if I were to go back and do something different, I would maybe make these mountains a bit taller, because I feel like in proportion to these trees, they're a little bit small. They're almost just like rocky terrain, if anything, that happen to have some snow on them, it looks great, but definitely if you want it to be a bit more of a mountain, you have to make it a lot taller. So maybe in another Worldpainter Timelapse, we'll go ahead and make some of these improvements. I am a little bit rusty with the software, but I still think this was a pretty fun map to make. And I'm happy to show you guys the process. Yeah, I think these custom brushes are just a real game changer. I don't know how I ever got by without them. So you can see the coarse dirt and podzol that we added all along this little river feature. And it looks nice with these mix of trees. What I did with the brushes is I added the medium-sized trees to border the tall-sized trees, so it's not just suddenly you see a bunch of tall-sized trees. It's kind of gradually places these trees in. But it looks pretty nice in the end. And overall the map, I believe, is about, if I had to guess, 500 by 500 blocks, which is a decent sized, nothing too large. You could totally fill up this whole map with a bunch of different builds if you're into that. I know I have some builds planned on this map soon, so feel free to check those out when they come out. But if you want to build on this terrain for yourself, feel free to download it in the description. I love the way this forest feature looks. We have this nice little plains area. This is definitely an area that I specifically designated for building, and you'll be seeing a nice time lapse coming soon for that area. And definitely you could go ahead and add a rocky house overlooking the waters on one of these little cliff tops. Or you could make a tree house. There's so many things you could make in this world, and I hope you guys are able to build something. And if you do, let me know in the comments if you build something, because I'm always happy to see if people are using the stuff that I make in their own worlds. And if you guys are wondering, the resource pack or shaders, those will also be in the description. There's a lot of tools I used in the creation of this video, but they're all worth it, truly. And this is what I was talking about when you go into the forest and see how dense they are. I think it's a really cool effect, but definitely it's very dense and not a lot of light comes through. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Bye.